Thought I'd come into this little room which is full of things that you and I did all those years ago, and records. I mean, look at this, it's like, I don't know how many thousand records are right here, but every second record I touch is you and me. And I keep on going back to that first day we met, 1985, September, around about the 20th or so. And I'd come back from the UK with about 300 or 400 dance records and was asked to play records at the 6-month club. And I got into the DJ booth, started spinning records, and this guy with the ponytail, 17-year-old kid with the ponytail, came up and stood next to me and said, "Hey bro, can I look at your records?" And I turned around to Mark, who was running the club, and said, "Who's this?" And he said, "It's Roger Perry, he's the best DJ in town." And so you and I became friends. And I think we probably spent most of the next 5 years before you headed off to the UK, hunting out records, listening to records, going to record companies, sitting at DKD Cafe, Old Potter Blair, discussing the records, finding beats, going through old magazines, looking for stuff we wanted to buy, and it was quite a journey. And I don't know, I can tell the whole story. There's so much of the story to tell, but I kind of think that but in particular you, made history in that period too. You took Auckland from a sleepy little town where most of the clubs played top 40 hits, or they had cover bands who were, playing top 40 hits. And you said, you don't have to listen to that shit, basically. I can play records that you will love. You might not have heard them before, but the way I play them, you will love them. So that's what you did. And you also said, and this is one of the things I think it's got to be stated over and over again, is you changed the crowd. You said to me and Tom when we first did our clubs, "I don't want any more of that bullshit about, brown people being turned away on the door because they haven't got the right sneakers, or we're full," that sort of shit. And you said, "I'll play with you guys as long as anyone's allowed in. If they understand why they're there, they can come in and they can play." And so within maybe a year of that time, when you walked into the DJ booth and hassled me, we were DJing together and DJing at the Asylum. And it was you were always, all the way through, an incredible DJ. You said to me once, "I can play any record I like as long as I judge the time." And I'll play I can go from a 90 BPM hip hop record to a 125 house record, or to something like Smokey Robinson and Miracles. This is the record they used to play. And you could drop the record in there and bang, the whole dance floor would go nuts. But the Asylum, I think, you always said the Playground was the best club we ever did together, but I actually think the Asylum was the best club, because that was where we discovered house music. And as you know, that became the soundtrack of Auckland City and it kind of still is in a way. And I can remember clearly the day I walked up to you in the DJ booth with a copy of Farley Jackmaster Funk's Love Can't Turn Around, which had arrived in the mail from Manchester that day, and said, "Play this, Roger." And you looked at it, put it on the turntable, and mixed the record in without having heard it before. And it was like the first time a house record was ever played in New Zealand. You mixed it basically blind or deaf or whatever, hadn't heard it at all. And the place went completely nuts, which is what you used to do every night at the Asylum. And the hip-hop stuff that you were playing, the records, like, where was it? I've been digging out every time I go through the record set, every second record is yours or mine or whatever, but they're ours. So, I pulled out things like Beastie Boys, Hold It Now, Hit It. And there was that whole section of the evening where you'd go in there and you'd play Def Jam stuff. And the crowd would go completely and utterly nuts. It got so out of control that eventually we had to kill it, because people would come running onto that little dance floor we had upstairs on the stage of the power station, or the Galaxy as it was then, and start body slamming around the dance floor. And it got violent, not in a bad way, but it got like aggressive. So we stopped it. And it was the place where you would take something like a Beastie Boys record and you follow it with the Chills. And the the crowd wouldn't miss a beat. They knew these things were coming. They knew the breaks were coming. But as you were told by Russell Crowe, I think, you can play anything if you just judge the time right. And you were courageous. And I don't know, those sort of memories will never leave me. And when Yosti rang me and said that he died a couple of hours earlier, I was just completely floored. I didn't know what to say. I'm still devastated. And sorry, I always regarded you as like my little brother. You drove me nuts sometimes, but and things like the Fiat Uno we bought you, which you went down to Alfie's and you got in an argument with somebody and they came out and kicked every panel in the car. I was so upset, but we loved you all the same. All the way through, right through to the 10 days before you died. I think the last time I spoke to you was 10 days before you died. And we sat up for about 4 or 5 hours and talked about music. And much of this year we've had conversations going backwards and forwards about tunes. And you'd ring me up or you'd message me on, and we'd go backwards and forwards about, you remember this song, remember that song, you don't remember this song? This is one of the ones you talked about. It's Jamie Principle, the X-rated version of Baby Wants to Ride. And that was a huge record at the Siren. And it was a huge record because you played it. And what else have we got here? God, there's so much. Todd Terry, Cold Cut, Fatback Band I found before, which is so much our record. And Princess, Say Me Number One. It was, I don't know, I could go on and on and on, but fuck, I miss you. And I always will. Love you, Roger.